Marcus Chen checked his datapad one more time as he walked through the busy market plaza of Nexus 7 trade station. The numbers looked right, but he wanted to be sure before he started working on the cargo ship engines. His job as a maintenance engineer might not be exciting, but it paid well and let him travel to different space stations across the galaxy. The plaza buzzed with activity. Traders from dozens of different planets sold their goods under the bright artificial lights. The air smelled like a mix of strange spices and metal polish. Marcus had been to many stations like this one, but he still found the variety of alien species fascinating. He stopped at a food stall run by a friendly Zephyrian whose tentacles moved quickly as he prepared meals. The blue-skinned vendor smiled and handed Marcus a container of something that looked like soup, but tasted like the best chicken noodles he had ever eaten. "Thank you," Marcus said in the common galactic language. He had learned it during his training, though his accent still marked him clearly as human. "You are welcome, Earthman," the vendor replied. "You are always polite." Not like others, Marcus knew what he meant. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy for being different. Most species found human emotions strange and unnecessary. The fact that humans said please and thank you, or showed concern for strangers, confused many aliens who saw such behavior as weakness. As Marcus ate his meal, he heard raised voices from across the plaza. A group of tall, elegant aliens had gathered near the fountain in the center. Their blue skin had a silver shine, and they wore flowing robes that marked them as Veltharians. Marcus recognized them from his cultural training. Veltharians were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy, known for their advanced technology and strict social rules. The group seemed agitated about something. Marcus could see they were surrounding someone smaller, though he could not make out who it was from his position. The tone of their voices suggested an argument, though they spoke too quietly for him to understand the words. Marcus finished his meal and started to walk toward his ship. His route took him closer to the Veltharian group. As he approached, he could see they were talking to a young female Veltharian who seemed upset. Her body language spoke of distress, even though Veltharians usually kept their emotions hidden. The female was clearly important. Her robes were more elaborate than the others, with silver threads that caught the light. A small crown rested on her head. Marcus realized she must be royalty of some kind. "Princess Kira," one of the older Veltharians said firmly. "You must understand. The arrangement has been made. Warlord Drex has agreed to the alliance. Your marriage will bring peace between our worlds." The princess shook her head. "Drex is cruel. His people fear him. I have seen the reports of what he does to those who oppose him. How can you ask me to bind myself to such a being? Personal feelings do not matter." Another Veltharian replied coldly. "You are a princess. Your duty is to your people, not to your own desires. The military alliance with Drex's forces will protect our empire from the growing threats in the outer systems." Marcus slowed his pace. He could not help but listen to the conversation. The princess sounded desperate while her advisors spoke with the cold logic that Veltharians were famous for. In their culture, emotional considerations were seen as primitive and unworthy of advanced beings. But surely there must be another way. Princess Kira said, "Trade agreements, technology exchanges, anything besides this marriage." "The warlord has made his terms clear," the first advisor stated. "He wants a royal marriage to legitimize his rule. Without this alliance, we face war with his armies and 3 other hostile systems. Thousands will die." Marcus found himself stopping completely. The conversation reminded him of old Earth stories about arranged marriages and political alliances. The difference was that this princess had no fairy tale ending waiting for her. Princess Kira noticed Marcus standing nearby. Their eyes met for a moment. Marcus saw something in her expression that he recognized from his own species but rarely saw in aliens. Genuine fear mixed with desperate hope. She was looking at him not as a Veltharian princess looking at a lesser being, but as one person seeking help from another. The moment stretched between them. Marcus felt the familiar human urge to help someone in trouble, even if that someone was an alien princess whose problems were far beyond anything he could solve. "The decision is final," the lead advisor announced. "The ceremony will take place when we return to Velthara. Warlord Drex is already preparing his fleet for the journey." Princess Kira's shoulders sagged in defeat. Then suddenly her posture changed. She straightened up and looked directly at Marcus again. Something shifted in her expression. The look of desperate hope became one of desperate determination. Before Marcus could understand what was happening, Princess Kira walked directly toward him. The Veltharian advisors watched in confusion as their princess approached the human stranger. "Honored advisors," Princess Kira said, her voice suddenly strong and clear. "I must correct your information. You speak of arrangements that cannot be made." "What do you mean, Princess?" the lead advisor asked, his silver eyebrows rising. Princess Kira reached Marcus and, to his complete shock, took his hand in hers. Her skin felt warm and smooth, and he could feel a slight tremor that revealed her nervousness despite her confident voice. "I mean that I am already bound," she announced loudly enough for everyone in the nearby area to hear. "By the ancient laws of our people, a princess who has chosen her mate cannot be given to another." The advisors stared in stunned silence. Other aliens in the plaza began to take notice of the commotion. Princess Kira smiled then, and Marcus was surprised by how genuine and relieved the expression looked. Among humans, such a smile would be unremarkable, but he had never seen a Veltharian show such open emotion. "This is my husband," she declared, squeezing Marcus's hand. The plaza fell silent around them. Marcus felt dozens of alien eyes staring at him. His mind raced as he tried to understand what had just happened and what it meant. The lead Veltharian advisor stepped forward, his face showing the first real emotion Marcus had seen from their species: complete shock. "Princess, this is impossible," the advisor said. "When did this union take place? There are no records, no ceremonies, no announcements." "The union was conducted according to human custom," Princess Kira replied smoothly. "As you know, interspecies marriages are recognized under galactic law when performed according to the traditions of either species involved." Marcus realized that Princess Kira was counting on the advisor's unfamiliarity with human marriage customs. He also understood that she was taking an enormous risk. If her deception was discovered, the consequences would likely be severe. But as he looked at her, still holding his hand and maintaining that brave smile, Marcus felt something stir inside him that was purely human: the desire to protect someone who needed help, regardless of the personal cost. "Is this true, human?" the lead advisor demanded, turning his attention to Marcus. Marcus looked into Princess Kira's eyes and saw the silent plea there. He thought about the conversation he had overheard, about a young woman being forced into marriage with a cruel warlord to satisfy political needs. He thought about how different this was from anything in his simple life as an engineer. Then he thought about what his grandmother used to say: "Sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do." "Yes," Marcus said simply. "It is true." The lie felt heavy on his tongue, but the relief that flashed across Princess Kira's face made it worth the risk. The Veltharian advisors began talking rapidly among themselves in their own language. Marcus caught some of the words from his basic training, but they spoke too quickly for him to follow completely. "This is highly irregular," one advisor said, switching back to Common Galactic. "Princess, why was this union not reported through proper channels?" "Human courtship customs require privacy and secrecy until the final commitment," Princess Kira replied. To announce the relationship earlier would have been an insult to his culture. Marcus was impressed by how quickly she was thinking. He had no idea if what she said had any basis in real human customs, but it sounded reasonable. "What is your name, human?" the lead advisor asked Marcus directly. "Marcus Chen," he replied. "I am an engineer stationed here for maintenance work." "An engineer," the advisor repeated as if the word tasted bad. "Princess, surely you understand that your position requires certain standards. A royal marriage to a common laborer." "My husband is skilled in advanced technology," Princess Kira interrupted firmly. "His knowledge of engine systems and power distribution is extensive. Such expertise is valuable to our empire." Marcus appreciated that she was defending him, even if it was all part of her desperate plan. "Furthermore," Princess Kira continued, "the marriage has been completed according to human law. To dissolve it now would be an insult to their species and could damage our diplomatic relations with Earth." The advisors looked uncertain. Marcus realized they were caught between their desire to control the princess and their fear of creating diplomatic problems. "We must contact the High Council," one advisor said finally. "This situation requires guidance from the highest authorities." "Of course," Princess Kira agreed. "But until the council reviews the matter, the marriage stands under galactic law." Marcus watched the exchange with growing admiration for Princess Kira's quick thinking. She had bought herself time, though he had no idea what she planned to do with it. "You will both remain here on the station until this matter is resolved," the lead advisor declared. "Guards will be posted to ensure your safety." Marcus understood that the guards would be there to prevent escape rather than provide protection, but he said nothing. As the advisors moved away to make their communications, Princess Kira finally released Marcus's hand. She looked at him with an expression of gratitude mixed with worry. "I am sorry," she said quietly. "I have placed you in great danger with my deception." "Why did you do it?" Marcus asked. "You do not even know me." Princess Kira was quiet for a moment, watching the other aliens in the plaza who were still staring at them with curiosity. "Because when I looked at you, I saw something I rarely see in any being," she said finally. "Kindness without purpose. Most people are kind because they want something in return. But you looked at me with concern simply because I appeared distressed. Such genuine care is precious in this galaxy." Marcus felt a warmth in his chest at her words. "What happens now?" "Now we must hope that human ingenuity is as remarkable as the stories claim," Princess Kira replied. "Because I have made us both the center of an interstellar diplomatic crisis, and I have no idea how to resolve it." As if summoned by her words, several more Veltharian ships appeared outside the station's windows. Marcus could see through the transparent aluminum walls that the vessels were military in design. "It appears Warlord Drex has been informed of the situation," Princess Kira observed calmly, though Marcus noticed her hands were shaking slightly. "What kind of person is this warlord?" Marcus asked. "The kind who takes insults to his honor very seriously," she replied. "If he believes I have rejected him for another, especially for what he will see as an inferior being, his anger will be terrible." Marcus looked out at the approaching ships and felt a familiar human emotion rising within him, determination in the face of seemingly impossible odds. "Then we had better figure out how to handle this situation," he said. "Princess." Kira looked at him with surprise. "You still wish to help me, even knowing the danger?" "Where I come from, we have a saying," Marcus told her. "When someone needs help, you help them. Everything else can be figured out later." For the second time, Princess Kira smiled that genuine, relieved smile. Perhaps there is something special about humans after all. The next few hours passed quickly aboard Nexus 7 trade station. Marcus found himself in a guest quarters normally reserved for diplomatic visitors, though he knew the comfortable room was really just a polite prison. Princess Kira had been given the adjoining suite, and Veltharian guards stood outside both doors. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process everything that had happened. Less than a day ago, his biggest concern had been calibrating engine systems. Now he was supposedly married to an alien princess and caught in the middle of an interstellar crisis. A soft knock came at the connecting door between their rooms. Marcus opened it to find Princess Kira looking much less composed than she had in the plaza. Her elegant robes were wrinkled and worry lines creased her forehead. "May I enter?" she asked politely. "Of course," Marcus replied, stepping aside. Princess Kira walked to the window that looked out into space. The Veltharian ships were still there, but they had been joined by 3 larger, darker vessels that Marcus did not recognize. "Those belong to Warlord Drex," Princess Kira said, following his gaze. "He arrived faster than I expected." "What does that mean for us?" Marcus asked. "It means he is very angry," she replied. "Drex does not like to be embarrassed, and my supposed marriage to you has done exactly that. His reputation among the warlords depends on being feared and respected. If word spreads that a Veltharian princess chose a human engineer over him, other leaders might see him as weak." Marcus watched the dark ships through the window. Even from a distance, they looked dangerous. Their surfaces were covered in weapon systems, and their design spoke of a culture that valued strength above all else. "Tell me about your people's marriage laws," Marcus said. "The ones you mentioned in the plaza." Princess Kira turned away from the window. "Veltharian royal marriage law is ancient and complex. The basic rule is that once a princess publicly declares her chosen mate, the engagement cannot be broken by anyone except the couple themselves or through formal combat." "Combat?" Marcus asked. "If another claims the right to the same mate, they can challenge the existing bond through single combat. The winner gains the right to marry the princess." She paused. "However, there is no precedent for a situation like ours. Traditionally, such challenges happen between Veltharians. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. So Drex could challenge me to combat? Under normal circumstances, yes. But you are human, and humans are not considered warriors by galactic standards. It would be seen as beneath Drex's dignity to fight someone from what most species consider a primitive race. That does not sound very reassuring, Marcus said. Actually, it may be our advantage, Princess Kira replied thoughtfully. Drex's pride works both ways. He cannot challenge you without looking foolish, but he also cannot ignore the situation without looking weak. A chime sounded from the room's communication system. A Veltharian voice announced that both Marcus and Princess Kira were requested in the station's main conference room for an emergency diplomatic meeting. It seems the time for planning has ended, Princess Kira said. The conference room was larger than Marcus had expected, with a round table that could seat representatives from dozens of different species. When they arrived, the room was already half full. Marcus recognized the Veltharian advisors from the plaza, but there were also several beings he had never seen before. At the far end of the table sat a figure that Marcus immediately knew must be Warlord Drex. The being was massive, even-seated with gray skin that looked like stone and eyes that glowed with an inner red light. His species was unfamiliar to Marcus, but everything about Drex radiated danger and barely controlled anger. Princess Kira, Drex spoke, his voice deep and rumbling like distant thunder. You have caused quite a disturbance. I have exercised my rights under Veltharian law, Princess Kira replied calmly, though Marcus noticed her hands were clasped tightly in front of her. Your rights, Drex repeated, his glowing eyes turning to Marcus. And this is the being you have chosen over a military alliance that would protect millions of your people? Marcus felt the weight of every gaze in the room. He had faced difficult situations before in his work, but nothing had prepared him for this level of attention and hostility. I am Marcus Chen, he said simply. I am an engineer. An engineer, Drex laughed, though the sound held no humor. Princess, surely even you can see the absurdity of this situation. You reject an alliance with one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy for a human mechanic. My husband's profession does not diminish his worth, Princess Kira said firmly. Your husband, Drex repeated, leaning forward. Tell me, human, what great deeds have you performed to win the heart of a Veltharian princess? What battles have you won? What enemies have you conquered? Marcus felt the familiar human response to being challenged. Not anger, but a desire to solve the problem in front of him. He looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. I have not won any battles, Marcus said honestly. I fix things that are broken. I solve problems. I help people when they need help. Several aliens in the room made sounds that Marcus interpreted as laughter, but he noticed that Princess Kira was watching him with an expression of growing interest. How remarkably primitive, Drex said. And for this, princess, you would throw away the safety of your empire? Perhaps the princess sees something that others do not, a new voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned to see an elderly Veltharian enter the room. His robes marked him as a member of the High Council, and the deference shown by the other Veltharians told Marcus this was someone of great importance. Counselor Zeth, Princess Kira said, rising to bow respectfully. Please, sit, Counselor Zeth said, taking a place at the table. I have come to resolve this situation before it creates a larger conflict. The solution is simple, Drex said. The princess admits her deception, accepts the marriage alliance as agreed, and this human returns to whatever insignificant task he was performing before. Actually, Counselor Zeth replied, the situation is more complex than you realize, Warlord. You see, I have been researching human customs and galactic law regarding interspecies unions. Marcus felt his heart rate increase. If the counselor had discovered that the marriage was false, both he and Princess Kira would be in serious trouble. Human marriage customs are indeed unique in the galaxy, Counselor Zeth continued. Unlike most species, humans base their unions on emotional compatibility, rather than political or economic advantage. However, human law also recognizes a concept called engagement pending. This means a couple can be committed to each other while still completing certain requirements before the final marriage ceremony. Marcus had no idea where this was leading, but he could see Princess Kira listening with intense attention. What does this mean for the current situation? Drex demanded. It means that under human law, Princess Kira and Marcus Chen are bound to each other, but the union is not yet complete, Counselor Zeth explained. This creates an interesting legal situation under galactic law. Explain, Drex said, his eyes narrowing. Since the marriage is not yet finalized, it could theoretically be dissolved if both parties agree, or if certain conditions are met, the counselor said. However, human law also gives the couple the right to complete their union at any time they choose. Marcus realized that Counselor Zeth was creating a framework that would allow both sides to save face. But he still did not understand what solution the elderly Veltharian had in mind. I propose a test, Counselor Zeth announced. A traditional challenge, but not of physical combat. Instead, a test of the qualities that humans claim to value: problem-solving, innovation, and what they call compassion. What kind of test? Princess Kira asked. There is a crisis developing in the Outer Rim systems, Counselor Zeth replied. The Corvani Trade Federation and the Stellar Mining Consortium have been fighting over mineral rights in the Helix Nebula. Their conflict has created refugee populations, disrupted shipping lanes, and threatens to spread to other systems. Drex leaned back in his chair. What does this have to do with our situation? I propose that Marcus Chen and Princess Kira work together to solve this crisis, Counselor Zeth said. If they succeed in creating lasting peace between the factions within 30 standard days, their marriage bond will be recognized as valid and complete. If they fail, Princess Kira will admit the union was false and agree to the original marriage alliance. The room fell silent as everyone considered this proposal. Marcus felt a mix of terror and excitement. The challenge seemed impossible, but it also played to human strengths in ways that physical combat would not. And what do I gain from this arrangement? Drex asked. If the human fails, you receive your marriage alliance as planned, Counselor Zeth replied. But if he succeeds in solving a crisis that has baffled diplomats for months, you gain something even more valuable, a connection to the problem-solving abilities that humans are rumored to possess. Marcus saw the calculation in Drex's glowing eyes. The warlord was considering the political advantages of being associated with a successful solution to a major galactic crisis. What resources would they have for this task? Drex asked. A small diplomatic ship, a basic crew, and access to public information about the conflict, Counselor Zeth replied. Nothing more than what any species would provide to their own mediators. Princess Kira turned to Marcus. What do you think? Can we do this? Marcus looked around the room at the alien faces watching him. He thought about the refugee populations Counselor Zeth had mentioned, about people displaced by a conflict over resources. It reminded him of problems he had seen on Earth, though on a much larger scale. I think we have to try, he said. Then it is agreed, Counselor Zeth announced. The challenge begins immediately. You have 30 days to achieve what trained diplomats have not accomplished in 6 months. As the meeting disbanded, Marcus found himself walking beside Princess Kira toward the docking bay, where their assigned ship waited. He felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had agreed to attempt. Do you really think we can solve this conflict? He asked. Honestly, I do not know, Princess Kira replied, but I have learned something interesting about humans in the past day. What is that? You do not see problems the same way other species do, she said. When Drex asked about your accomplishments, you did not speak of conquests or victories. You spoke of fixing things and helping people. Most galactic species would see that as weakness, but I'm beginning to think it might be a different kind of strength. Their ship was small but well equipped, with a crew of 3 volunteers from different species who had agreed to help with the mission. As they prepared for departure, Marcus stood at the observation deck looking out at the stars. Princess Kira joined him there. Are you having second thoughts? No, Marcus said. I was just thinking about something my grandfather used to tell me when I was young. He said that the best solutions to big problems usually come from looking at them in new ways. What kind of new way do you think we need for this conflict? Marcus watched the stars for a moment before answering. Every briefing I read about the Helix Nebula conflict focuses on who has the right to the mineral resources there. But what if we are asking the wrong question? What do you mean? What if instead of fighting over who gets the resources, we figured out how to make sure everyone benefits from them? Marcus said. On Earth, we learned that cooperation often produces better results than competition. Princess Kira was quiet for a long moment. That is a very human way of thinking, she said finally. Is that bad? No, she replied, and Marcus heard something new in her voice. Hope. I think it might be exactly what this situation needs. As their ship entered hyperspace toward the Helix Nebula, Marcus felt the familiar human determination to solve problems and help people taking hold. He had no idea if they would succeed, but he knew they would try everything possible. And for the first time since Princess Kira had taken his hand in the plaza, Marcus began to believe they might actually have a chance. The ship's communication system chimed with an incoming message. The captain announced that they had received updated intelligence about the conflict, including reports of recent attacks on civilian ships and refugee camps. Marcus felt his resolve strengthen. This was no longer just about saving Princess Kira from an unwanted marriage or proving human worth to skeptical aliens. Real people were suffering, and they had 30 days to find a solution. He looked at Princess Kira, who was reviewing the conflict reports with intense concentration. Despite everything that had happened, Marcus realized he was glad to be working with her. Her quick thinking had gotten them this far, and her knowledge of galactic politics would be essential for whatever came next. Ready to change the galaxy? He asked. Princess Kira looked up from her reports and smiled that same genuine smile he had first seen in the plaza. With a human engineer as my partner, I think we might just surprise everyone. As their ship raced through hyperspace toward an uncertain future, Marcus Chen found himself at the center of exactly the kind of impossible situation that humans somehow always seem to find a way through. The real test was just beginning.